know who Donald Trump is, but do you know anything about his life beyond the fact that he's a billionaire property tycoon, has a questionable character, and is, frankly, a crazy old man? In this video, I'm not going to talk so much about his moral and ethical outlook on life, but instead about a brief bio and his connections to Russia. I'll be using as my source text the book Collusion: How Russia Helped Trump Win the White House by Luke Harding. Luke is a British journalist working as a foreign correspondent for The Guardian. He has several books including Mafia State, The Snowden Files, and WikiLeaks. Vladimir Putin spent his young career before becoming the president as a spy in the KGB. He served his military service from 1975 to 1991 when he entered the political arena. Since 2000 to today, Putin has served as a president of the Russian Federation. For years, Russia have been trying to influence European and American politics without very much success. What they would do is make huge financial investments in certain businesses and corporations, and they would use that leverage that they had with the influential people to later on call in favours, and they would have them in their pocket and say, yeah, we need this please now that we've paid you all them billions. And another exercise that the Russians had, they would try and cultivate relationships with Americans, and in the memo they would say the ideal culprit for who we want to cultivate would be someone who is vain, narcissistic, ambitious, and possibly adulterous. And so we don't need to look any further than Donald Trump for someone who fits that description. Trump married Ivana, a Czech woman, in 1997, and they stayed married until 1992. Ivana had ties to Russia through her father, and according to Luke Harding's book, there is absolutely no doubt at all that spies would be relaying information back to the Russian government about Trump's business and personal life. So as early as 1977, the Russians were beginning to accumulate information and data on Donald Trump's life. In 1987, the Soviet government invited Trump on an all-expenses paid deal to Russia. What they did is they appealed to his narcissistic nature and manipulated him by telling him that his hotels were the best and most grand in all of America, and that they wanted him to come over to Russia and to build some beautiful hotels there too. And of course, this manipulation, this flattery, it worked on Trump like a treat, and it pleased him greatly. He travelled back to Russia again in the 90s, and then famously Russia hosted Trump's Miss Universe 2013 in a suburb near Moscow. Trump wrote personally to Putin to invite him to the spectacle, and during the same month Donald Trump tweeted, as we all know he loves a tweet, he tweeted, "Do you think Putin will be going to the Miss Universe pageant in November in Moscow? And if so, will he become my new best friend?" You can't write some of this stuff. I mean, Donald Trump likes to tweet, his tweeting is famous, but during the 2013 Miss Universe in Moscow, Russia, Trump was rubbing shoulders and just loving life. He's rubbing shoulders with all sorts of Russian oligarchs and billionaires and all the big financial players in the country. And he was taken by one particular man. He was taken with Aras Agalarov, the billionaire owner of the Crocus Group Corporation. And when the two wealthy property developers met for the first time on the fringe of the Miss USA contest in Las Vegas in mid-June, after just 10 minutes, Trump was showing off his new friend. He clapped me on the shoulder and gave a thumbs up and started shouting, "Look who's come to see me, it's the richest man in Russia," Agalarov recalled to a Russian magazine later that year, before clarifying that his fortune, estimated at a massive 2 billion, was nowhere near the wealthiest. He was nowhere near the wealthiest man in Russia. Trump could be, and he inevitably would be, a valuable asset to Russia. Their grand plans of manipulation and cultivation, they hit the jackpot, really, because I don't think Putin thought that Trump was going to become president in the 2016 election. So when he did, Putin was like, wow, jackpot, we've hit a winner. And we can see that Trump and Putin have a good relationship, because we've never seen Trump criticize Putin, whereas he's very critical of everyone else. And so, as you can see from a montage of these pictures, they've met numerous times, and Trump obviously has a great deal of respect for Putin, and maybe he's so nice and friendly to him because of all the incriminating evidence that Putin's amassed over his years monitoring Trump. Maybe he's got all sorts of dirt on him, and so Trump's like a dog on a leash that Putin is, he's controlling. So now let's talk about Russia's influence in the 2016 presidential election. For me, there's no doubt that they had an influence. If you look at all of the facts and bring them all together, the first one would be about Hillary's emails being hacked. And so now, if the Russian information technology guys can hack Hillary's emails, of course they could have hacked Trump's as well. So why did they just hack Hillary's and release that? Again, to help Trump. And also you can look up and do some research yourself, but there's a lot of information about Russian bots being used to influence, to create posts and appear to be American citizens, whereas ultimately they were opened in Moscow and paid for in Russian rubles. And finally, there was a whole unit of Russian students. Luke talks about in great detail in the book that, again, just like the Russian bots, there would be loads of them. They'd all have several social media profiles that they would open, and they'd pretend to be Joe Blow in American Midwest, and just posting in forums. And for anyone in the forums also, you see the picture, you see the name, and you think, oh, it must be Joe Blow from America. So this happened a lot in the run-up to the election, and stirred the pot and caused all sorts of talking points. So you can think what you want about Russia's influence in the presidential election and Donald Trump's becoming president, but I think that I've put a good argument forth that they definitely did have an influence, and that Trump and Putin go way back, and who knows what's going to come in the future. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you did, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.